Chapter 9. The first thing they agreed to start on is to find where Philip currently lives, or at least where he had lived before. The first was hard to determine, as having only his online debt account weren't helping the most. Even though they can go over the yearbook, as Nathan did to her when she found her, scouring one address to another, and possibly another city, isn't going to get her the fastest track to finding him. Jewel, of course, made a few calls to her colleagues from college, or at least the ones she still has contact with. She failed to keep in touch with most of them after graduation, as entering adulthood was a battle between energy and time. Either you have the energy but doesn't have the time, nor have the time but don't have the energy to socialize. She remembered she hadn't had ample of both. The field of psychology is ever evolving. One findings after another creates more space and room for application. Achieving her master's degree is another different thing. She was studying the human mind for sure, but when she was going through it, there were times she admit she had to rethink if this was the right path for her. And it turned out it was. She asked these long missed friends if they knew Philip, and any information they could help her with finding him. Some of them said they barely knew Philip, and some said they didn't even know Philip at all. Some said that they shared classes with him, but that was it. And Philip hasn't been one of their friends or even part of their acquaintances group. She went down to the most finite of details, such as asking them if they knew any friends of Philip whom she could talk to. But goodbyes were said, phone calls ends into another, and all she got was a mere fragment recollection and absolutely no link to him or his colleagues or whatsoever that concerns Philip. She told Nathan of the progress she had done, and he confirmed they were on the same sinking boat, and she was the captain. Nathan had an idea which she first frowned upon. Retrieving old school data will neither cost them half the time or cost them being called into the school owner's office. But Nathan said he had a way, and so she conceded. She wonders what would Martha from the registrar would say to her if she ever saw her again and find out she had recruited Nathan into her own path down the memory lane. The next day, she drove herself once more back to the university. Went all over the process of getting in, and Nathan met her in the library. They only stayed there for a little while, and he showed her where he found the letters. Her mind was filled with old memories, good and bad being there once and again. Her fingers wandering through the weight of the books among the tall shelves. As if on a blink of an eye she could be back there as her old self, cruising through college life. And without an idea on where she'd end up to in the future after days of pressure to get to that finish line. She looks out to a corner, few steps away from where Nathan stood. That is the same spot where she cried when William, her college ex, told her that it's all over. She can't cry out in the hallway nor even at home, even in the bathroom, so she ended up between the same library grounds where Philip had found her crying, where he stayed with her without asking. She learned a long time ago that the world is a huge library, and every student has their own book to read. They won't care to read and see outside the pages, only the inside of their own stories. They wouldn't even care as well if a girl like her has tried her best to replace her tears and the pieces of her broken heart with every poem verses she reads, just for them to not see it. She obliged to hide them from everyone. Yet Philip is not one of them, and she was too stuck in her ripped chapter to not see it. Within her moment of reminiscing, Nathan simply broke in, And soon they were walking down the building side by side, past few students who knows Nathan. In a few minutes they were in the registrar's office. Jewel expected Martha to assist them, but instead it is a young man on his thin eyeglass that opened the window. Nathan swiftly went on with the explanation. They seem to know each other, and time by time she abides by him with a little explanation of her own. After a minute or so, Raven, the guy on the counter, as Nathan called him, shakes his head and Jewel watches in trepidation as he speaks. I'm afraid I can't help you. Raven adjusted his spectacles up to his nose. It wouldn't be possible to retrieve his old records. Our system gets updated every first quarter. He's not in the system any longer. The university can only accommodate certain numbers of student profiles. We haven't had acquired new system data upgrade. He flips his head slightly. I'm sorry, Nathan. Miss. But we can still look out for him, right? She prodded. There has to be some printed copy of his profile kept somewhere here. Yeah. Nathan agrees. Wait, let me. Isn't that in the suite room just across the main building? Isn't that right, Raven? Raven looks out to both of them, probably stunned by their adamant inclination towards the matter. Yes, there is, and that's where it is. He crosses his arms up to his chest, a sign of oppression. But you can't go in there. It's only us in the registry department who can walk in and out. It's our job. He sort of clinged tightly on the word job, probably hoping they could get the message behind. I suggest you file a request on it. Here's a form, you can fill it out. From somewhere, he fished out a brown paper. It'll be 30 working days before we could release it. We can't wait that long. Nathan seated, but still calm. He sort of smiles at Raven, the kind of smile you do when you know you have an edge over something. Come on, pal, I know you could let us in. He set the paper aside and smolders. For the love of Laura? Jewel didn't know who Laura is, nor why she has to be involved with all of this, but as soon as Nathan said the name, Raven's face turned smug, guarding him down. Laura has nothing to do with this, Nathan. I'm desperate. You sleek bastard. Just let us in. He looked straight hard at him, and Jewel had to keep herself from laughing out loud as the two went hard into a stare battle for a few minutes longer. Finally, Raven latched out a set of keys beside a small locker. Shit! She heard him hiss just before he closed the transparent window. I knew it would work, Nathan said later. Who's Laura? I'll tell you later. Soon, Raven led them to the usual suite across the hallway. He jammed the keys to the knob and warily squints around, before twisting it and silently coaxed them to get inside. Once the light switch is on, tall boxes and dividers with different colored folders swam over their eyes, and Jewel couldn't hide her amazement. She looks over them, mentally estimating how long would it take them before Philip's profile will come out of all of them. 1 hour. Raven called from behind. Just 1 hour and that's it. You gotta be out of here. He walks beside the first stand of boxes and shaking his head. Jesus, Nathan, you could get me fired with this. Relax, we'll be quick as a mouse. Nathan says. Text me when you're done, Raven said, and before Jewel could offer him thanks, he was out from the room, leaving a soft click on the door. They were finally alone. Who's Laura? She's his girlfriend, he said as he began checking the boxes. I promised him to write a poem for her, to be given on their anniversary at the end of the month. She loves poetry and I could write a bit of it, so he can't resist me. He cast a grin. Clever, huh? I can't argue with that. Woman loves poetry. Exactly. And men loves doing whatever it is to get that to them, hence why we're here. I never doubted you. Nathan laughs. Later, they were opening folders hand in hand, flipping Scar's documents page by page, pushing boxes one by one. They were all over the place. One moment, Nathan is on the far end, while she's still in the midst of cabinets, tumbling papers. And then the next, they were on each other's place 45 minutes earlier. The room's temperature begins to warm up. She realizes there's no air conditioning installed in this one. And still, no Philip found. But it was as if fate was pulling her towards him further. When 2 hours later, on a white folder tucked behind a huge dark brown envelope, he appears once again between the pages. I found him! I found him! She calls out, and Nathan hurried beside her, and they both read the precious address written below, sighing in the breath of what others could say as the "at last" sigh. When do we go to him if he still resides there? She asked. Tomorrow is a good time as any. He helps her up and sort of act like an 18th-19th century character from one of Shakespeare's pieces, mimicking its accent. I therefore now declare the quest of His Royal Hopeless Romantic Highness Prince Philip to officially commence. With Nathan looking dork as he acted, together they burst out into a laugh. They were set to go to the address written on Philip's profile, but Nathan has his literature class in the morning, so they agreed to move the plan later in the afternoon. He invited Jewel for a lunch at school, and she was there again, at its canteen this time, among the younger crowds minding their own snacks. Feeling a bit awkward that she used to be them 10 years ago, and knowing no one among them would be in their right mind to hang out in their old university a decade later, to find the man whom they have regretted not loving earlier. Her story. Nathan insisted on fetching their orders, so she was left alone on her table for a while, reading a book that Nathan is required to write a book analysis with. When she, on a few seconds into its pages, saw a familiar image walking towards the table a few paces away from her. A few more milliseconds passed and she gasped, seeing it's Jade, sitting alone with her lunch tray. Her mind quickly turned incognito mode. Jade should not see her there, or she would really freak out. She would really freak out if she ever did, here in her university of all places. She didn't know Jade goes here. If the girl would realize, she'd be more conscious than she already had during their sessions. Working for the connection took her a year, and she couldn't stake it being seen here. So when Nathan appeared in the table, she stands up and makes use of his body as a way to hide herself from Jade seeing her. Miss, what are you doing? He asked ludicrously, carefully holding his tray. Can we sit on another table? He said, still eyeing Jade. Why? The table looks good to me. Nathan prodded, suddenly confused with her weird disposition and all. I don't under. Come on, let's just switch seats. She can't see me here. She grabs him by his front shirt, still watching Jade from a distance. Who? Who can't see you here? Come on, I can't be seen. She snatched Nathan in front of her, and Jade finally started eating her fries. Don't you ever move. What? Nathan squints over where she is looking. Her face suddenly were replaced with surprise when he instantly blushes at the sight of Jade across the distance. He turned to her, their mouths slightly opened at taking realization. You know Jade Lisbon? They both exclaim in chorus, both dumbfounded. Who wouldn't? A deep voice behind Jewel called out. It was a plump young guy in white shirt walking past across them, holding a tray full of burgers and juices. Hey Nathan, who's the chick? Hey Josh. Nathan chipped in. She's my sister's friend. Josh snickered at her. She better be your sister's friend. With a nod, he strolls away. See you around. Nathan nods too, and after a while turns to her, and they both sort of laugh a little. Okay, you first, Jewel said, still watching Jade from the corners of her peri-peri. No, you're the guest. You should be first. He prompted, all the while shaking his head. This is all way too unexpected. I didn't know she studied here. I mean, we never talk about it. Talk? He asked, suddenly curious at the word. You guys talk? Well, yeah. She said a matter of factly. She's one of my patients, and I see her twice a week for our therapy session, and I supervise it. She suddenly halts on a dead stop. Oh shit. What? She ran a hand through her forehead. Did I just say that she's one of my patients and I see her twice a week for her counseling sessions, which I supervise? Yeah, you just did. Oh, Jesus. Jewel reaches for her Coke and opens it up disappointingly. I'm dead. I shouldn't disclose clients' counseling. And I just said that out loud. Jade wouldn't be happy if she knows. Well, your secret's safe with me. Nathan stabs his fries to a mud of ketchup and glances once again at Jade from her seat, where she is still finishing her lunch. I didn't know she was that. I mean, with her being with you and the session and all, he whispered. She seemed pretty tough to me. He must be talking about how intimidating Jade looks like. Well, she is. She agreed. But not all the time. She sips on her Coke. Okay, your turn. How did you know her? His eyes was down on his fries, and he was making little waves with his ketchup. Seriously, it's obvious. We go to the same university, everyone here knows her, and so I know her. He mischievously grins. Simple. She shakes her head, smiling. Why does it sound like you're not really being honest? Her eyes turns into small slits. Are you? Over the years, she has been used to assess many people's emotions through their faces and how their body moves and reacts. She smiled at Nathan knowingly. There's still something still, in the surface that he's not telling her. There is a oh no look all over his face, like they're on a guessing game and she was slowly winning it. You know, Nathan, people's eyes usually dilate when they see or hear something about someone they like. And that just happened to you like a few minutes ago. She took a bite of her untouched burger earlier and she shrugs teasingly. Just tell me when you're done pretending you don't like her. There was a deadpan silence that hovered over them and their eyes talked, until Nathan held up his Coke, giving up. Okay, I'm down. I like her. Alright? You happy? She laughed at his obvious shyness. There's no need to be shy about this. Come on, what's so bad liking someone like Jade? Well, I am, he said, blushing once again. I can't help it. She's the most beautiful creature my eyes have ever beheld. They both looked over to their shoulders and watched again Jade, now emptying her Coke out. Jewel marveled at the young girl's features, and she was amazed to see how different Jade is when she is around in her clinic compared to here. She seems so stiff just by sitting there. Jewel could perceive that this is not a place she usually hang around, and most obviously not the place she liked the most. She looked the same, dark skirt and dark shirts and dark everything, but she never looks the way she does with all their talks. She was here, but also she was not here. Beautiful creatures hide the most beautiful scars, she said, more like a mere whisper, wishing Nathan wouldn't get it, for she's not ready anytime soon to share what Jade's situation is. How can someone be so beautiful and not even know a thing about it? Nathan asked, more like to himself, lingering over the sight of Jade opening up a book, dismissing her Coke. Jewel looked at him, and the way his eyes softened, she can't help but smile to herself, realizing there was no way to deny the undeniable affection this man has for the girl. Maybe it's just the way you see her that makes it more beautiful, she concluded. Nathan tossed her a sidelong glance and smiled. I'll buy you another fries for that. Soon they were on the road, with Jewel driving and Nathan trying to connect to the radio, changing the station time by time. They were on a traffic standstill somewhere in Edsa when a familiar song played by. The artist, Jewel's cold voice surrounded her car, and Nathan doesn't seem to mind and finally stopped changing the station. She was glad for his silence because talking means thinking and she can't think straight, not now, that Philip's possibly just a couple of streets away. She wonders what would be the first thing she'll say, if ever. Finally, he'll be able to see her and they'd be together. Would she stutter, or would it take her a couple of minutes to compose herself and start talking to him? All of this she wouldn't know. She wondered how he looked, maybe a bit older, but still the same Philip she knew, a bit mature. All the more, she was wondering if he still looked at her the same way he did 10 years ago, or would he be the same? She wouldn't know. Her heart, thickened with trailing excitement and nervousness, wouldn't know. When she pulled the car into a 4-floored pile of business apartments, her pulse went double. Nathan jumps off the car and asks one of the passers-by if this is the street and Philip's address. The young man nodded and pointed to one of the apartments, the one on the middle right side. Nathan thanked him and quickly coaxed her to get out of the car. She nimbly gripped the car's door open, her heart racing. She took a long gaze at it, her lips mildly shaking as they both reached the apartment's door. Nathan gives her a small, encouraging smile, nudging her to knock. And so she did. She imagined Philip opening the door, and there would be the same glow in his eyes, his arms open, his lips telling her, Jewel, at last. But it wasn't him that showed up. Instead, it was a stout middle aged man in white long sleeve. The man looked out to them, strangely, for a few seconds. May I help you? Nathan quickly amended his obvious confusion and told them who they are and who they are here for. They all share a mild handshake, and the man introduced himself as Mr. Montenegro. His face lights up in recognition after hearing Philip's name. He knows Philip. Will you come inside and I'll fill you in? I was just making coffee. That would be lovely, sir. Thank you. Nathan said, and they stepped inside. Mr. Montenegro asked them to wait on a chair nearby, and once they settled down, Jewel observed around, swallowing her disappointment, knowing all too soon that Philip is not here. She tried to hide it, and Nathan sees it, casting her a smile that tells her it's okay. When he has given them the coffees, Mr. Montenegro started talking. I used to be his family's landlord a couple of years ago. They were for they were here, for I think 13 years. Their family left a couple of months after we graduated. They're going to stay for good in their province, but Phillips gets to stay for 2 years more. I never got to talk much to the young man, you see. He was working all week long, and he only dropped my apartment when he's to pay rent. He sips on his coffee. One more year after that, he told me he was leaving, and I think it was for good. I lost contact with him ever since. Do you mind if we could take a look around his room? Jewel turns to Nathan for support. Just for a few minutes? Mr. Montenegro nodded. Sure, come on, I'll show you upstairs. They followed him up, and she was admiring the decorated walls when Mr. Montenegro stopped on a room, which he opened and coaxed them to get inside. Inside, it was a tidy room, and it doesn't take her less time to recognize this was Philip's room. Or was. The way the room welcomes her reminds her of him. There were boxes covered with dust on the corner. A bed stands on the far right, and a small writing desk was on the left, the one that really caught her attention. Mr. Montenegro offered an apology for the mess. Jewel went straight to the table. She touched a hand towards its fading edges, felt its roughness, and she knew this is where Philip spent most of his time writing the letters for her. She can't help but picture him here, seated on the chair writing, time by time adjusting his eyeglass, as used to be his habit, a manner she remembered. She could feel him here, even though it was long years ago. She has an undeniable feeling that this is where he used to think about her. Mr. Montenegro pulled up Philip's older stuff, which Nathan took interest in looking. Mr. Montenegro excused himself. His phone is ringing from the living room. I found something. Nathan later calls out. She sat next to him. He was holding out a 3-page letter of admission dated 9 years ago. It shows he was accepted as an editor in a publishing house called Greenview Literary, its address dangling right before their very eyes. Maybe he still works there? Nathan asked in a whisper. What if he's not? Nathan didn't smile like the usual, but there was a hint of amusement in his eyes. And like the usual, Miss Jewel, we'll have to find out.